You are listening to a Cult Talk Network podcast.
And we, Eldar, masters of hindsight, insight, and foresight, are bound that much more tightly to our duty than the ignorant, the belligerent, the blind.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Cold Lore. I'm Ben.
I'm Eric.
And today we're carrying on with the Eldar. We're going to pick up where we left off with is at the birth of Slaanesh.
Yeah, a very quiet event that could have just passed by the wayside in the galaxy.
Barely a blip. Nobody noticed at all.
Not a thing.
Barely a cricket. So, just a short recap. The Eldar had completely taken over the universe, or the galaxy, as far as technological achievements, just a ruling faction. They were the tip top.
Apex species.
Mankind at this time was at its peak as well. And from what I can tell, we just kind of chose to not engage with the Eldar because even at the heights of our technology, which you have to remember, the heights of our technology was we could use what was called an STC, a standard template construct. There it is.
There.
It could turn anything into anything. It couldn't create anything from nothing. But if you had like a wrought iron, it could turn it into an apple.
Wow. Just rearrange all the atoms.
Yeah, it could do matter manipulation, but it couldn't just outright create matter.
Gotcha. Okay.
The Eldar could create things out of nothing.
Right.
So getting into war with them was not in our best interest, and it seems like we pretty much just
kind of stayed out of their way.
Yeah, decided not to. They were, and we were below their notice. So they really weren't interested in fighting us as long as we didn't pick a fight.
We were the raccoons outside as long as we stayed out of the trash.
Well, they had a particular term for us. They called us monkeys.
Oh. Well, that's
yeah,
an odd pronunciation, but I felt that sting.
Yeah. That is their derogatory term for all of mankind, which feeds into their not coming from primate ancestors like it is believed that we do.
Right. Oh, I see. That makes sense.
So they refer to us as monkeys, and it is not a term that they use all the time, but it is one they'll absolutely use to remind us of our place.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm currently reading the Legion book. Of the Horus Heresy, which is about the Alpha Legion.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But there is an Eldar character in there who has referred to a human that works for him as monkey from time to time. And it is very much a power play.
I see.
Anytime this human agent starts getting a little, the term we would use would be uppity.
Gotcha.
He uses the term monkey to kind of put him in his place. And it's very apparent. So that's what they think of us. And this is after they had fallen and after they're an endangered species and they still have this attitude. So I'm sure you can imagine what it was like.
At the time.
At the top.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. These guys were elf supremacists. That's what I call them. They were. And they still are.
Sense. Yeah.
But anyway, their being at the tip top has its problems when it comes to morals, and they didn't have any. And through their society and degradation, they descended into depravity and hell, and were murdering each other and eating each other for fun. Sex had lost all of its appeal, and they had moved beyond that. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you've ever seen Hellraiser, it's somewhere in between that and Good God. So. Until all of this energy that they had been dumping into the warp kind of unintentionally gave birth to Slaanesh.
Yep.
And in that one like ripping instance of Slaanesh's birth, it created a shockwave that just massacred trillions of Eldar. Put them on the endangered species list in a moment.
Yeah, instantaneously. And I think for the most part, the reason a lot of them survived was because some did kind of see what was going on with their society and had just of their own accord started getting as far away from that shit as they could.
Correct. They were on these things that became known as craft worlds.
Yes.
Now, they were originally just giant floating malls.
Oh, okay.
Their original purpose was the Eldar would basically pack up an entire marketplace, which that represented their entire kingdom, basically.
Right.
And they would go out to these other kingdoms and do trades as long as you recognize that they got the better end of the stick.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Supremacists.
Right. When you're better than everything else and you're trading with them.
Correct. It's not going to be
price.
a fair deal.
Yeah.
But that's what they were originally.
Just great big mall/trade ships.
More or less.
Nice.
And so these people, these Eldar that disagreed with the hedonism had converted them into craft worlds, these giant ships that they could live in forever.
Yeah.
And they just took off out of there, took as far away from the center of the kingdom as they could. And it was just by sheer, they weren't fast. They didn't have faster than light. They weren't warp traveling.
Right. They were sublight, weren't they?
They were sublight.
Yeah.
So it was just by sheer happenstance that they outran the blast wave, which was was some stupid, incalculable distance that I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
Like it decimated multiple star systems. Okay. Like,
yeah. Like I can't. Yeah. How would you quantify?
They have it. The number's out there.
Oh,
I
no
think.
kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I think it's out there, but
Okay.
I'm not even, look it up yourself, please. Please.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of Code of Lore is get you interested and look it up yourself.
Yeah. There we go. Yep.
But it was
Exactly.
it was just by sheer happenstance that they had reached minimum safe distance.
Woof.
And a lot of them didn't.
Right.
And so the womb, the giant ragged vagina that Slaanesh came out of, was the Eye of Terror.
Yep.
And at this time, the Eldar gods, who had actually abandoned the Eldar.
At that, really?
Yeah, they
were too depraved even for their own gods.
Exactly. And that comes into something here a little bit later,
Okay.
but called the Tear of Isha.
Ooh.
Stay tuned for that.
Ooh.
But they had abandoned them. But seeing this happen and seeing what was going on, the Eldar gods threw themselves at Slaanesh and were basically slaughtered.
Oh.
We touched on this before
Yes.
mentioning the gods, but
Yeah.
this is kind of the context at which that happened.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they were out of the game.
They were,
At that
yeah.
point, they were like, yeah, we're done
And
with you guys.
probably why they couldn't take Slaanesh. If you go into the
Oh.
theory that they were fed in by the belief of the Eldar, and that's what made them powerful,
Then they were weakened when they went up against newborn Slaanesh.
and only a few, the Laughing God, Caleb and Chicane, and
the
one held by Nurgle.
Yep. And I can't remember her name. I won't guess.
Hey, future Eric,
What?
We have a job for you.
Oh, man.
find out the name of that goddess and put her right. Yeah,
Damn it, Dan.
And stop complaining about it.
that's right.
Seriously.
But anyway, so they all got wiped out, and Slaanesh retreated back into the warp. But this ragged hole that it had carved into the galaxy became what we know as the Eye of Terror.
Yes.
So that brings us up to speed where we come in now. What did the Eldar do? They were an endangered species. They were the only ones that were alive were left on these floating worlds called the craft worlds.
Yep.
Not exactly.
Oh. Not
There
exactly.
was another group of Eldar that managed to survive the birth of Slaanesh. And they managed to survive because their city, planet, home base, I believe it's pronounced Kamaraj.
Okay. I have seen the word of which you speak.
I believe it is Kamaraj is how you pronounce it. In the webway, shielded them. And they became known as the Drukhari, or the Dark Eldar.
Ooh.
Dark Eldar name actually came first. Drukhari came second. Some of the new names I like and I will keep. Some of them I don't like Eldari. Listen, adding an extra I at the end. Stop being lazy. Oh, and also, I'm preempting this. It's squats. Do you understand me?
Oh, Ben is firmly planting his foot.
The League of Voltan should be like a group of squats, like a particular faction. They are squats. Get over it.
Well, now you know where the cult of lore apparently stands on that terminology.
I'm calling it now.
Just know I have no context right now.
It's just they don't like the name squat. They think it's offensive, so they're trying to rebrand them as the Leagues of Voltan.
Leagues of Voltan.
And it's like they're squats, dude. But anyway, I like the name Drukhari because it is completely. It's not just a half-ass change.
Right. It's an actual original.
Yeah.
Word or term that they came up with.
So I can keep the Drukhari or the Dark Eldar. I like to say Drukhari just because saying Dark Eldar a lot gets old.
Yeah.
Especially if you're bouncing between Eldar and Dark Eldar.
Right.
It's nice to have the two separating names there.
Distinct.
But anyway, the Drukhari are a throwback to what the Eldar kingdom was right before the birth of Slaanesh.
Ah, okay. At the height of their depravity.
Yes, they're really bad. They are probably, oh man, they are the worst faction, I think, as far as just sheer monstrosity in the entire universe.
Wow,
the entire 40K.
That is a bold statement.
I think
with how just awful 40K.
I think so. I think I can't think of anybody that I think I'd rather be captured less by than the Drukhari.
Oh boy, yeah.
And they have managed to discover they can actually prolong their lifespans indefinitely by absorbing the suffering of others, the psychic energy put out by others. And so the longer, the more intimate, the more intense torture that they can put you into, the more life they can draw from you and the longer they live. And they have equipment, and we're not going to get deep into it because we're going to get deep into it. Oh, by the way, this may be a short episode, but stay tuned at the end for a little hint, nudge, nudge, a little reward for our shortness today.
Yes.
So stay tuned to the very end, please. They have machines that can actually inflict psychic pain. So like it's physical pain, but it's completely imaginary. So it doesn't do any damage to your physical self.
Oh, wow.
But nevertheless, the experience for you is exactly the same as like they can make you have the visions of having your insides flayed out, right? Oh. But because it doesn't do any actual damage to your body, you're still experiencing the pain, but no actual damage. And they can pump you full of chemicals and drugs to keep your respiratory and heart rate down.
And your nervous system going.
Yep.
And, oh, man.
And they are governed by a group called the Homunculus, who are even worse.
That's right. Even worse.
Even worse. Stay tuned. So you have the Drukhari who are lurking in the wings, but the Eldar themselves have to completely retool how their civilization works.
Yeah.
And they have two things that greatly help them with this. One is the invention of paths.
Yes.
Paths are a life choice that they make to help keep their emotional and psychic energies in check.
Yeah, to keep them in check and keep them from falling to the same sort of shit that
help them with discipline. And
yeah.
And the other thing is called a spirit stone. Now, what does a spirit stone do? A spirit stone actually does exactly what it sounds like. It collects the soul of whatever Eldar it is attuned to the moment they die. That prevents their soul from going into the warp and thus avoiding Slaanesh.
Yeah, because that's just what happens to them now.
Correct.
As soon as they die, they don't get to go to their little paradise anymore. They go right to Slaanesh unless they do something about it.
Instantly. And yep, it's because Slaanesh is so intimately tied to them because it was their energy that birthed the damn thing.
Yeah.
But a spirit stone or a waystone is a crystal gem that sits on their chest, on all of their armor. And it's also referred to as a tier of Isha. And the reason why it's referred to as a tier of Isha is supposedly, according to the Eldar, how they came by these stones, these gems, is they were made by Vaal, their god of smiths and craftsmen. Mm-hmm. And they were made from the captured tears of their god Isha, who was apparently weeping on their way as they were leaving when Assyrian, I think is how you pronounce it. It's their capital G god. It's their main guy.
Right.
He had had enough of the Eldar shit, and he commanded all of the gods to turn their backs on them and to never enter the mortal realm again. And so she was crying because she considered all mortals to be her children. And so he collected the tears and created the gems. Right. And so what happens is every Eldar wears one of every craft world Eldar. There are Eldars called Corsairs that do not live on craft worlds.
Okay.
Now, we'll cover them on the next episode.
Okay.
I haven't looked into them quite yet. Life has been interesting the past couple of weeks, and so we are behind. Forgive us. But anyway, at the moment the Eldar dies, the gem absorbs their spirit and puts them at kind of like a state of not consciousness or rest, but somewhere in between, where they can kind of interact with the energy of the gem itself on some level.
Oh, okay.
But they're at like some sort of comatose state until they're plugged into a matrix. And I call it a matrix because it could be a wall on a Titan. It could be a thing called an infinity circuit, which is at the center of their craft worlds.
Okay. I've read about those.
Right. It could be on a weapon, like an ancestral weapon made out of wraithbone. And all of these matrices are made out of this stuff called wraithbone. And what wraithbone is, it is solidified psychic energy from the warp.
Wow.
So the best my brain can comprehend it is, hey, future Eric, look up the term for when lightning hits sand.
I don't want to. Future Bailey?
What?
What do you call sand that's been struck by lightning?
Really? Why?
The past Eric and past Ben are making me do stuff.
So you've decided to make your problem my problem.
Yes?
Fulgurite. You're welcome.
Future Bailey says it's fulgurite.
Anyway, when lightning hits sand, it creates this kind of crystalline imprint of what the lightning bolt looked like, right?
Uh-huh.
That's kind of what Wraithbone seems to be like.
Okay, that's kind of the impression I got from it. So it's like that frozen energy,
Right.
sort of. Like
Correct.
Yeah.
And so all Eldar can interact with Wraithbone because it is psychically resonant.
Right.
And because they are so psychically talented, they can all interact with Wraithbone, which allows them to interact and communicate with the spirit inside of the Spirit Stone.
Wow.
It allows them to interact with the Wraithbone on for whatever purpose. It's like if it's connected to one of their Titans, it allows them to communicate with the spirit in the gem so that the spirit can help move and guide the Titan. Or if something happens to the driver, the spirit can take over. A lot of the spirit inside of the Spirit Stone seems to replace the machine spirit of the Empyrean.
Yeah, right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. I like this version a little better than the machine spirit, because with the machine spirit, it's like I just can't help but think of like, you're just banging, kicking a computer or something like that.
But that's what I actually like about the machine spirit, though, is
you can grounded.
You can relate to it, because we've all had that moment where you were sweet talking a machine and it decided to work, or you just wrapped the shit out of it, and for some reason that worked, even though it should have. To this goddamn day, Nintendo still insists that blowing on the original Nintendo cartridges did nothing to help them work, and we all know that that's bullshit.
That is absolute bullshit. That's tested, proven, slapped, science. Boom. I'm serious. Well, that's fair. But me, I like more mystical sounding stuff.
Sure,
so this has more of that tinge to it. Yeah.
It's all right, Jipper. She was giving me weird looks because I slammed the table.
Don't worry. It's just Nintendo's denial. Go back to sleep, baby.
Anyway, so I like the machine spirit just because we've all had kind of that moment where it's like, why did that? But also, I'm a technophobe, so I believe they're already listening anyway.
Ben really is just looking at the coffee pot like, come on, man, please. And then it starts.
No, I've never actually managed to talk a machine into working.
Maybe
my sheer presence has caused them to fuck up, but I've never got it to work in reverse. But anyway, so they where was that? Oh, infinity circuits.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty neat. An infinity circuit, it seems to be like almost like a skeleton of a craft world. It's kind of what it sounds like in its structure, right? And it's made out of this wraithbone stuff.
Correct.
Yeah, and it runs throughout the whole ship. It's like an inner core sort of deal and branches out through everything. And it's kind of what makes, I thought this was neat. I read somewhere that it kind of makes each craft world kind of sentient in its own right, because it's got all these, because I'm not Eldar. They plug in these spirit stones to the infinity circuit, and it creates something of an
infinity
hive mind,
right?
Sorta?
So
collective.
What it does is the wraithbone connects each soul stone or each spirit stone. Each spirit stone to the other. And so the soul inside the spirit stone can communicate with the other and lend energy back and forth. And so the more you plug in, it's not so much a hive mind as like a collection of minds. They're not necessarily all one like the Tyranids are.
Okay.
But they can interact at the speed of thought.
So it's kind of like they each become a neuron, but it's an individual mind.
Right. They're just able to communicate back and forth with such speed that it's functionally the same.
Okay.
But they are individual personalities.
They keep their independence.
Correct.
Yeah. See, I like that better anyway than a hive mind.
Yeah.
They've basically made the internet out for dead people.
Yeah, it's just that all of them agree.
Yeah. They're all trying to help themselves survive. I think it's the superiority complex. They all agree because we're the best already. And we don't want to fall to Slaanesh. I take it, I'm going to make an assumption here that if a craft world gets destroyed and it destroys the infinity circuit, they probably rocket straight to Slaanesh.
They do, and it is considered to be a devastating loss. So the Eldar go out of their way. If the Imperium knew this, war with the Eldar would go very differently. But like one of the top, if not the top consideration for the Eldar when they make war plans is the cost of Eldar life. They need it to be like 100, 200, 300 to 1. Because of how few there are, and they know it. Yeah. So if the Imperium knew how high a price they put on their own heads,
oh boy, they would just really change the.
They could, because the way to win against the Eldar would be just to double, quadruple, just double down every single fucking time.
Yeah.
Because the one game they can't win is the numbers game.
Right, and there's plenty of humans in the Imperium.
Oh my God,
at this point. Yeah.
So,
oh boy, yeah. Just throw a trillion Imperial guard at
one craft world and just be like, have at it, boys.
Just keep going until.
And that's one of the reasons why the Eldar are shitting bricks about the Tyranids so much,
because they really have the numbers.
That is their whole game.
For more, yeah. Oh, I see. Boy, yeah, that would be pretty devastating. What could they've run into the Tyranids before?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm interested in? I haven't found anything out about, but I haven't looked totally into it. Guys, if you know the answer to this, reach out and let us know. But I wonder, so the Tyranids produced this thing called the Shadow and the Warp, right? Which is basically like a complete quarantine of the warp. It doesn't get past them at all. There's no demons can't exist. Like the gods have no reach.
Oof.
So what happens to an Eldar soul if they die in the presence of the Tyranids? Because Slaanesh can't reach out and claim it.
Oh, wow. Huh. I never thought about that. What would happen?
I don't know.
Huh. Anyone with some insight? I really would. We don't get a lot of comments at all. But
even one.
If you have an answer, please do.
Yeah, because that's I have no idea.
I'm very curious. Yeah,
but,
interesting. Ooh, one of the mysteries of Warhammer.
Right. So the loss of a craft world is absolutely devastating.
Yeah, that would be it.
And so we've covered the soul stones, or the spirit stones. That's going to be a thing. You know what? We need to get the hell out of here. People don't listen for the Eldar, and I don't like talking about it. Actually, I'm fine with talking about, but it is true. People don't listen to them. You look at all the other videos and every other, like I've heard it from everybody from all different YouTubers. People don't listen to the Eldar. Listen,
Yeah.
I've got a bone to pick with you fuckers because I have heard so much bitching about Games Workshop not giving any meat to the Eldar players, no miniatures, no nothing. Well, motherfuckers, you don't watch the videos that have to do with the Eldar.
Yeah. How are they
So-
going to know?
So
Yeah.
you
Why?
don't, like. I'm
What?
also being a little patronizing to our viewers too. Maybe I shouldn't do that.
Oops.
No.
It's fine, but it makes sense. Supply and demand.
It does,
as far as that
like-
goes. If they don't see the demand, if you can say it, but if they don't see it,
But
yeah, why would they invest in it?
with that, I will offer up this little, like, you can take my head off if you want for this because I'm being a little hypocritical. I myself don't watch Eldar videos. I don't. I like them. They're cool. They're interesting. The Harlequins are boss,
Yeah.
but they're not Warhammer's greatest contribution, really.
Honestly, they're not capturing me in the same way that like orcs do,
Yeah.
that even elements of the Imperium do. Like, just not quite the same. And maybe that's because I haven't looked enough into them. But,
Maybe.
So, I
But
don't know.
we have the Spirit Stones, and the final thing we'll cover today is the craft or the paths.
The paths of, yes, the Eldar paths. So I put together a little list of what the wiki said was known paths. So I thought this was pretty neat because they're kind of this blend of, they've become this blend of what seems to be like not just occupation, but like also kind of religion. It's like Jedi paths almost. Like,
Yeah,
this is what
that is
you do.
that's a pretty
Yeah.
that's a pretty interesting
I didn't think I'd make a comparison today. There you have it, folks. Eric's comparison.
the Jedi path. And you know
Yeah.
what? It really is. The only difference is the Eldar live so much longer, so they get to in
Really
Star Wars,
dive
if you have
into it,
a Jedi Master that's fluent in 2 or 3 of them, it's considered to be exceptional.
Right.
But for Eldar, they live hundreds of thousands of years.
So
Not
they-
hundreds of thousands, but thousands of years.
Yeah.
Hundreds or thousands of years. So they can sample them all. Although they don't fucking sample.
No, some seem to be like preludes to others. So in that regard, they might kind of jump from one to another, but it's never like really, I don't know how much they really branch out between each one.
So in some of the things that I was looking at, it can be quite dramatic.
Can it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So I'll go through this list here. We have the Eldar paths. There is the Path of Awakening. And that one, when I read the little paragraph on it, it seems like it's like your environmental awareness, your surroundings. Like these guys can kind of Sherlock Holmes the shit around them as far as like observation goes. They're picking
Huh.
up details that even other Eldar might find difficult or even impossible to
So it's like the
decipher.
path of observation.
Yeah, that was kind of my takeaway from it. Yeah, the path of observation.
And I bet they use their psychic powers, their psychic prowess to enhance that.
Yeah, I would imagine, although I don't know that for sure. But I mean, they seem to do everything with.
Correct. Yeah.
yeah.
It's their crutch.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. It's one of the less obvious names,
Yeah.
Awakening. There's also the Path of the Artisan, which has a bunch of different branches under it, of course.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. Poet, sculpture, like very, very arts related. One neat one I found, a subgroup, and I've set myself up for this pronunciation, Hithrinar.
Sounds right.
The philosophy behind it
No
is
idea.
that the artist should actually become as much a part of their art as they can be. That last bit's kind of in quotes from the wiki page. And that means like tattoos, changing
Oh,
the
okay.
color of
I
their
was going to say,
skin, their
woo,
hair.
that could go dark.
Well, that was my thinking anyway. Even if it isn't like just, tattooing yourself up, it's like that one seems like you're towing the line.
Yeah.
Of course, the whole artisan one really could be kind of looked at that way. Poetry and sculpture, and I imagine painting,
I mean,
architecture,
I guess the whole point, though, is to tread these lines without losing control.
I guess that's true. Yeah, you got to walk a pretty tight path, I would guess. And it's actually, I guess it's one of the more common paths, too.
The artisan?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Overall, yeah.
I think the Harlequins kind of fall in that.
It sounds like it. From what little I know of them, they seem extremely performative and aesthetic.
Right.
Yeah.
Who are the Harlequins? Stay tuned for volume 3.
Ooh, there we go. Teaser. Book 3, right?
Book 3.
Book 3. There we go. Next up on our list, we have the Path of Command, military command and strategy. is what they fall under. They tend to have like some other military path under their belt first, and then they kind of follow that. Path of the Dreamer, which to me it seems kind of the opposite of the Path of Awakening. They are very much about like lucid dreaming and deep meditation and stuff like that.
I bet that leads into farseeing and premonitions and
it kind of seemed related to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, most like. I mean, probably.
Yeah. Now this was a neat one to me, and actually this kind of ties into the Celtic
theme
kind of flavor that I'm picking up. The Path of Grief. It's these guys' job to show up to like funerals and remembrance, like memorial stuff, and take on the job. They're like keeners.
I was gonna say they sound like keeners.
Yeah. Where you go to funerals and you take on the grief, and it allows the Eldar to remember without succumbing to the emotions of grief.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of neat.
Boy,
it was a cool reason.
It's like reading about the Eldar. It's like, have you ever known somebody who is not just bipolar, but like really swingy? It's like that.
Yeah.
These guys, because when they take a path, they pursue it like whatever it is to perfection.
Yeah.
And for some of them, it can become an obsession, and they never leave that path.
And they just continue to follow that and seek further perfection in it as they go, probably.
Yeah, and they're referred to as the lost ones.
Oh no, the lost ones.
Yeah,
like they get so lost in their profession.
Yeah, because it's always meant that you are meant to do more than one. You were never meant to pick just one, but they have lost the path.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't really seem like they're condemned, but the Eldar instead seem to make jobs for them based on that. So like, I'm sure you have the ones that are the warriors.
Oh yes, the Path of the Warrior. Yeah.
So if they get all consumed by it, they become the ones that live in their bases and then train people in it until it's time to go to war.
Wow.
So they do stuff like that. Like, you're not condemned, but it's not looked at as a good thing.
Right. They're kind of like, ooh, okay, you're the Eldar version of a workaholic here.
Yeah.
You need to calm down, come back to family,
right?
Teach some people some
but they
stuff.
do seem to find places in society for the ones that have kind of...
Well, that's pretty nice. They're very good to each other.
They are just awful to everyone else.
Yeah. Just to get through a couple more here, there's the Path of Service, which is what was it? What's their word for us? Monkeys would consider menial jobs.
Right.
So they're dedicating that. It's the same sort of sense of duty that they would give to like the military, like the Path of the Mariner, which is their space fleet crew. Yeah. And stuff like that. And then there's the Path of the Outcast, which isn't actually a path.
No.
They're the ones who kind of run away.
Yeah, so those are the ones that I refer to as Corsairs.
Oh, okay. Look at us coming full circle.
Yeah, they're basically, and I'll provide more stuff on them in the next episode, but they're basically pirates.
Cool. Okay. Eldar space pirates.
Yes.
And then the last one I have here is the Path of the Seer, which has its own branches, such as, I guess, or the Path of the Witch is another word for it. I imagine Farseers fall under this umbrella.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Warlocks.
The Eldar equivalent of librarians.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, warlocks and all the crazy casty shit.
Yeah. That's what I've got on the paths. There are apparently more. It's just those are the ones that we know of as humans.
Yeah. Part of me on reflection has to wonder if one of the reasons why if the Eldar isn't boring is because there just isn't anything new to talk about.
Oh, this stuff might be kind of old hat.
So
I guess it's old.
Yeah. So I guess in trying to represent the problem with the scenario that Games Workshop's kind of dealing with is sometimes you have to be the first one to step forward to give them something new to talk about.
That's true. Yeah.
But they have here recently. They definitely have. We have the Yanari. There is the return of Gilliman that the Eldar, the Yanari especially, and the Harlequins play a giant role in, which we'll get into on the next Eldar episode.
All right.
So there is some new stuff. And like I said, guys, this is a shorter episode.
Mhm.
But we have a special kind of preview for you.
There
about
we go. A preview. A
Preview.
little sneak peek
Yep.
kind of deal. Yeah.
behind a little thing to look at. So with that, thanks for joining us. I'm Ben,
I'm Eric.
and allow us to introduce to you our friend Jerry.
Pain is the only universal constant. Pain is all. It is the key to creation and destruction both. Thus does he who masters pain become God.